We're going to move to.
I have to get to this other meeting at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So,
So we have,
Oh,
we have quorum, so if you need to leave.
all right, I'll just stick around,
Okay.
see how it goes, but I got like, 12 minutes.
Okay. So Jasmine, you want to take a roll call for the LDC meeting? Here.
Frank Well,
yeah.
Kathy Bauer,
Here.
Amy Bondieri.
Here.
Here.
John Fabiano,
Here.
Al Pujano.
Here.
Okay, conflict of interest, just to remind everybody again that if you have a conflict with anything that's coming before us, please state that. And we'll make sure that you're recused. Does anybody have a conflict that they're aware of now? Okay, during the meeting, you detect one, please let us know. Proof of meeting notice was posted?
Yes.
Okay, bills and communications.
Not today.
Approval of minutes from June 9th. Is there any changes, corrections? Okay, could I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, Jasmine, could you take a quick roll call?
Al Pujani,
Here.
John Fabiano,
Approved.
I think you meant approved.
James DeCombe,
Approved.
Amy Bondieri.
Approved.
Kathy Bauer,
Approved.
Mark Well,
Approved.
Approved. Okay, Marilyn, report to the treasurer.
Looking at the balance sheet, we currently have 2.8 million in cash. You'll see an accounts receivable of 96,000. That's the request for the county reimbursement, which the board already approved. Nothing else outstanding on the balance sheet. Looking at the P&L, nothing new to report. Everything looks fine, other than the admin fees. We budgeted 300,000 and we're at 5,000 right now. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, we don't need any approval on that right now.
The admin fees come from when an applicant does bondage,
Yeah,
right?
and we have a handful.
Yeah.
In process.
Reports of committees, none at this
None
time.
at this time.
Unfinished business.
None at this time.
Okay, new business, consideration and approval of the preliminary inducement resolution. Now, we had someone from Millbrook School.
Yes.
There we go. I wanted to make sure that he was still with us. Sarah, do you want to kick this off for us?
Sure, I'll kick this off. Today we have Jeffrey Smith from Millbrook School, and I think, is it Lisa?
Lisa's no longer on the call, but Valerie Allen.
Yep, Valerie from the Attorney's Council Office.
Okay.
But Millbrook School is coming to the LDC for assistance for tax exempt bond. To refund previously a Series 2013 LDC bond, as well as construction of renovation and enhancements to various spaces along campus that are consistent with their strategic vision 2025 plan. So it's considered a retention project. I will turn it over to maybe Don before we let Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, it's simply a refunding. And I do note that because of the timetable for them to make their decision, they are concerned about having another meeting. So did you want to address that?
So, yeah, so their timetable is that they would like to close sometime in August. So it may require, well, it will require a special meeting of the board in August. So you'll be getting a notice, a due to survey in a couple of weeks, but
Okay.
that is something that.
All right, they can't check calendars today before.
Yeah, well, I wanted to see with the.
Did we get that? Well, didn't we get something?
No, so that was for another matter,
Oh,
another
okay.
project that they are also on the tight timeline. So depending on when we can schedule the July, will determine when we can do the August, because they are also on a tight deadline. And if I can schedule them at the same time for the August, that would just save a lot of time for the board to do that. So that's why, so I just wanted to just give you notice that there is going to be an August meeting potentially. if we can get quorum, and there might be.
Now, Sarah, just a comment or just a thought. I mean, technology is a wonderful thing. I'm very happy that we're able to get together for these normal meetings. But for a meeting like that, perhaps it might be a good idea to see, because I think, the preliminary discussion tackles a lot of the concerns. But I'm just wondering if it may improve availability if we said that people could participate in the other meeting by Zoom. But Don, I see Don's over there going.
Yeah, the problem is that the statutes haven't caught up.
Oh,
Right.
right. Oh, we'd have to list each person's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a bit of a problem with it.
Once the executive order
Okay.
ended,
Yeah.
Okay. So that's not, so just to let everybody know, great idea by my part. If you do that, you have to post each one of our residences as a meeting location. And in theory, people could appear there.
It needs to be ADA accessible.
Yeah, so great idea. No, not going to work. Okay.
Put on your
second
porch
story
door.
apartment at the
Yeah.
sushi place wouldn't.
I remember one time I was actually on vacation when we had a meeting and we posted my
Hotel.
hotel.
Yeah.
At any rate, okay, so that's not going to work. So we will be having to have some meetings to try and accommodate these folks, and we'll do our best to do that. Okay, so with
My
that,
prediction is statute will catch up, but
Well, I hope
now
you're
that's
right.
where we are.
yeah.
So with that, I'd like to introduce Jeffrey Smith from Millbrook School to talk a little bit about the project and the bonds.
And Jeffrey, I'm sorry that you had to wait so long. Very hard for us to know exactly when the meetings are going to end and begin, so apologize for that.
Always happy to see civics in action.
There you go.
I don't know, Valerie, actually, if you wanted to speak first or if I should.
Sure.
Quick overview.
Sure. Happy to. So what the school is hoping to do is a bond issue to finance two different functions. First, there is a new money portion. And let me back up by saying the total bond issue would, we expect would be in the range of $25 million of tax-exempt bonds with a not to exceed of $30 million. 16 million of that would go to new money projects, including construction and installation, improvement, equipping of new facilities on the campus. And I'll let Jeff can speak more eloquently about the new projects and the uses and the need for them on the campus. The second portion of the financing would be to refinance bonds that that the corporation issued back in 2013 for the benefit of the school, which again financed projects that were then new and exciting. As Sarah mentioned, this is a retention project. This will help continue the school's delivery of critical education services to its students and its presence in the community and the retention of the jobs currently that are on campus.
Yeah, that's right. We employ about 135 full-time equivalents here in little Millbrook, New York and Stanford, New York. We have about 330 students who come from across the country and around the world and spend their tuition dollars here, which is something that we're really happy about. We've fared very well through the coronavirus pandemic. We managed to have our students on campus in person for instruction and the residential life program all year long. And what that has meant actually is a real growth in demand for this product. In order to keep up with our competitors, just like in so many industries, but especially in the small colleges and universities, that means we have to keep building. So this project, what we call Vision 2025, includes two construction projects that we intend to start immediately. The first is a new residence for the head of school, and The second is an office building for our fundraising office so that we can raise the money to build all the rest of the buildings. We have an expansion of our athletic facility. That facility was originally conceived to accommodate a maximum of 250 students. As I said, we're at 330 students. So the facility is very undersized. And a new dormitory. In the early days of the pandemic, we made the decision to lease a temporary dorm facility. It's actually a building that previously had been used by the Army as a barracks on an Army base. So that's here, it's operating. It allowed us to de-densify the dormitories to keep the students physically farther apart, to make smaller groups of students in the residential life facilities. That has turned out to be a really good thing for us. Having the extra space really allows us to do a lot of things in the residential life program, to get into spaces and do renovations at times when otherwise they would have been offline because they were so full. So an additional dormitory. And then as soon as humanly possible, we are very short on faculty residences. So we actually project that we will need, I was fascinated by the previous conversation about housing. To catch up, I think that we need immediately 6 new houses. To keep up, we anticipate that over the next 10 years, we're going to probably need more like 12 or 15 additional housing units for our faculty and staff to be able to be on campus and deliver the 24-hour residential life program that we need to offer. So all of those projects are going to be funded by fundraising, but we know from history that really that probably means we're going to eventually raise about 85% of the cost of construction, and so the rest we think we need to finance with long-term debt, which is exactly why we're coming to you.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify, when I said that it was refinancing, but there was a major component of this as part of their master plan. They had a master plan in the past. They've updated the master plan. This is part of that. The town of Stamford has proved that they've gotten, it was a type 1 action, and it was determined to be, they neg-decked it. So it's a matter in the next phase of this, the board will consider the environmental portion of that as well. Likely will follow as they usually do with the town's determination. But yes, so that's the first part on page 2 of the.
What I see is the refunding is 15.566 million of the total 25 million, correct? That's what I see in the first page, under total project costs. So yes, so that, leaves approximately 10 million for other construction and projects. Other questions, John?
Yeah, well, that's my question. It talks about in the cost summary that this is a $41 million project. And when I look at the math here, the $25 million or $25 to $30 million is coming from a bond, and there's approximately 15.5, which is being used to satisfy the existing bond. That means it's really only 14 million. So is the net of the amount? I mean, how do we get to the $41 million investment? Not including the bond refunding, because it's really already been invested. So is it a $25 million project? Is it a 15? What's the number?
The size of the bond is 25 to 30 million.
Right.
That's how much they're borrowing. That's what they're asking the board to approve, borrowing to that amount, and whatever else they pay themselves is fine. They do have to pay off the existing bonds.
So then the proceeds from that is only going to be about $14 million and change. So is it a $14 million expansion Or is it a $41 million? I don't know how we get from.
Well, they can use, they're using other monies. for
Is,
it.
is that the intent of the school?
Yeah, so as I said, we only build when we can fundraise for these buildings. So we do anticipate about $41 million of construction over the next 5 years. But the large majority of that will be gifts and pledges that come from our friends and family. So the bond is sort of intended to cover either projects that we can't effectively fundraise for. There's not a whole lot of donor dollars that are interested in building a house for a faculty member. But there's a lot of dollars that are very interested. You know, a lot of people would love to have their names on an athletic center or on an alumni building. So we anticipate being able to fundraise about 85% of the total cost eventually. And that 10 to $14 million additional money in the bond is to help us close the gap.
Okay.
So the 41 million is almost your 5-year strategic plan for.
Or building, that's right.
Yes. Right now, you're borrowing for what you need to get done, period, end of story, and you're gonna repay it out of tuition, basically.
Well, not out of tuition, but out of donations to the
Yeah,
school.
well, whatever sources you can get, but it's the part you know about right now.
That's right.
Any other questions? Okay, so we do need to have a preliminary approval. If there are no other questions, is anybody willing to make a motion for preliminary approval of this project as described?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, David Cohn, can I get a second?
Second.
Mark Doyle? Okay, Jasmine, would you take a roll call vote, please?
Al Torriani,
Approved.
John Fagliano,
Approved.
James Cone,
Approved.
Amy Bondieri,
Approved.
Kathy Bauer,
Approved.
Mark Doyle,
Approved.
Cindy.
Approved. Okay, so do we want to, it sounds, Don, like you were suggesting, do you want to actually pull out our calendars? I mean, is this something we want to schedule?
I know, I think it'll be easier when Jasmine sends out the
Okay.
doodle, so.
Okay, so we do understand that there's time constraints here, and so we will work to, you have to have your they have to have a public hearing.
Yeah.
But we'll try and coordinate so that we can get you back in time for your timeframe.
Well, boy, I really do appreciate that. And just speaking as somebody who's running a school, let me say, I know the value of summer vacation and the fact that you all are just so easily talking about scheduling an extra meeting in August. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now just for the board members, we do have our questionnaires in here, project evaluation worksheet. And then I think at least it was tabbed on mine, maybe tabbed in everybody's, but we will need to get those back from folks along the way. So, okay. So Sarah, we had something else on the agenda, but are
Yes.
you going to cover that or not?
Yes, I don't require any board action on this. I just wanted to start a discussion and at a future meeting, we hope to be able to resolve it. But, and it may actually impact Millbrook, how we review Millbrook School as well, is the current local workforce policy for the LDC and for the IDA as well, but for the LDC is very general in how it describes construction projects. So it really only says total project cost is what is the definition of construction. So as long as the total project cost exceeds that 10 million, it would be subject to the local labor policy. In the case of BARD right now, the projects that they are using to fund the bond proceeds for are various intermittent projects that do not impact the square footage of existing buildings. They are really modernization, like replacement of a generator, reconfiguration of space, replacement of LED light bulbs. And a majority of those projects are going to be implemented by their existing employees. They will be hiring for the larger projects like the generator replacement and things like that, outside contractors, but like the only project that they have completed on that list is the reconfiguration of the cafeteria due to COVID. They had to space it out, create a kitchen. So that's the only project they've completed. The rest of the projects, they're still waiting for bids on. They've been slow to come in because of just the industry right now in the area is being that. But before they start construction, I want to get ahead of that for the monitoring of these projects, because the majority of these projects are going to be done by their internal staff, and that they are, you know, somewhat, they're just, I would say, and each project on its own do not exceed the $10 million. They range from 400,000 to the most expensive is the generator replacement at 6 million. So so I think it kind of prompts perhaps the board or the staff to look at what defines a construction project for the LDC, because it's not like a hospital tower or a new athletic building. It is these minor, smaller projects that are intermittent across campus. It also poses a problem by the logistics of how we do our monitoring, because we do unannounced visits to see who does these projects. And if these projects are smaller in scale, they're not going to be done all at once. You know, it is highly likely, you know, that our staff will be, you know, going up there when there is no project done. And then how do we account for employees and things like that? So it's a little bit
Right, and
gray.
the other problem with that is that the workforce policy is really talking about temporary jobs. People are coming in, and we want to make sure that that happens. When the work is now being done in large part by staff, then these people, well, yeah, but do you count those people? Yeah, so they're going to be monitoring what existing staff.
I would think, I don't believe that these projects are being done by their maintenance staff. Don, I'm sorry.
They're looking out in Boston. I mean,
Okay, I say no.
Well, so we don't have to make a decision.
That's a decision.
But I think that we do understand that construction projects are temporary, but in the aggregate, by having a lot in a local workforce policy, our workers are able to work all year round in different jobs. And so, I think, I don't know if we're going to be able to make a general statement that we waive it for their entire project. It may require things, you know, as things occur, because I mean, otherwise, in theory, another large project could say, oh, we're breaking our projects down into small components. And so they're underneath. I mean, the good thing for BARD is that they were able to package this in some way to get financing.
Right.
The bad thing for BARD is it's not traditional construction work.
Yeah, so it's just a question now of refining the policy to make sure if like Al said, well, okay, if you're using staff, they would be considered local.
Yeah.
Because, you know, but then if there is one of the people comes over the Connecticut border to come in, and then and is working partly on a project, it's a logistical problem for staff trying to work with those things. So we're just trying. I don't know. I've only been consulted in part on this, but the way it was explained to me is trying to deal with the logistics and the mere volume of all of this is going to be difficult for staff. They may need to bring somebody else in to actually do the monitoring.
Yeah, and yes, and again, this is just a presentation at the beginning of discussion. Is that we are still looking at the monitoring. It's not that we don't want to monitor, it's just looking at the appropriate way to monitor these type of
Well, I
projects.
think that one of the problems for BARD is normally we would do it by payroll, right?
Yes.
And how are they allocating the payroll of their workers who, you know, for a couple hours, if this is true, maybe doing something and then they're doing their regular job.
Yeah.
And maybe what a solution could be is, because of that, for this project, maybe there's another way of monitoring it based on a percentage of time or something.
Yeah.
That, you know, that just to accommodate that.
Yeah, so,
So it sounds a little bit like there's a way for them to provide that monitoring process, however they do it, and then we are essentially the auditors, which is.
Right,
Yeah.
but that they probably, well, we may be telling them that's what they have to do, because they don't probably want to do that. It's going to add complexity for them, but go ahead, Al.
We just did both the Legoland project and Sullivan County, the Vieira Hotel, both had IDA requirements that we had to fulfill. We had to show them, we had to submit with our applications
Yes.
every bill that we paid. So
Correct.
they knew the tax exempt. They also had CSIP, so we had to do that. And then we had to show a certified payroll report, which gives everybody's address, doesn't get their social security number, rate of pay, all that stuff. But it's common. This is
yeah,
not
and no,
difficult.
and we do that we do that for all our projects. We do the same thing. They have to do
The
the
problem is BART
payroll.
doesn't normally do that
Well.
for their own
it's-
workers.
And, okay.
And again, that's what we do, but for this project, looking at the Paris report, you have employees and you have construction workers. So if we have 10 of their maintenance staff doing something, then I don't want to double dip. I don't want to count them twice. So then they are employees and I totally ignore the local workforce policy as far as they're concerned. This is what part of our conversation has been.
An employee is a local,
He's a local
Person.
worker.
Are we
we could make that.
Yeah, I mean,
assumption.
that's one of the problems we have is because the policy is so general.
Yeah.
We're trying to kind of maneuver how can we be in compliance with our own policy? And so this is something that we are going to be looking at internally and presenting to the board.
You could come back to
But
that.
this-
Revisit
yeah,
the policy.
Exactly.
So the whole idea here is to advise you that this is a concern and that they don't even know all of the problems yet, but they do know that these are problems. So they're going to go through and try to figure out first what the problems are and then suggest solutions.
And you've heard already,
Yes.
what are our concerns?
Yes.
We don't want people to controvert with the contractors.
Yes.
Now, if it turns out that with this project, 90% of it's done by
Maintenance.
BART employees and they are local labor, and then 10% is outside, well, I think we all be fine with that, but we don't want it to be, we find out that 100% of the outside contracted groups were from Connecticut and New Jersey.
Yes,
Right?
yes, of course. And again, the intent is not to let BART off the hook or anything. It's just this.
How
and
are
then
you gonna do it?
It's how are we going to do it? Because we also see with Millbrook, some of the projects won't necessarily, like while they'll build like a new houses, those things are easy to monitor. When you then start going into, they're going to do these maintenance upkeep and things like that. Those projects, again, it's going to be an ongoing thing. So we want to kind of mitigate it before it becomes, an issue. So we're just letting the board know that these are some of the issues and,
Yeah. Alan, I think, has the most day-to-day contact.
Yeah.
He's a great resource.
yeah, no, exactly.
Amazon went 100% local everywhere. They're ecstatic down there.
Yeah.
They went 100%, and actually went with all union guys too.
Yeah.
All union workers. It was too big, and they gotta get it done so fast.
It's flying.
Yeah. It's flying, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
So
if you come back to us with, what you think would be a
Yeah.
good solution, and Don, we've done that, I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll be, interested. in it. But
Yeah,
we
so-
do understand.
Yeah, so let's just bring it to your attention and, to get some input. But we are going to be, it'll come back,
Sure.
in a future meeting, but just letting you know that these are some of the pitfalls we're starting to see on LDC side.
Okay, is there anything else?
That's it.
Okay, so we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming. It's great to see everybody in person.
Yes.
Printers.